The Vanishing of the Yuba County Five, America's Dyatlov Pass. They were 5 young men, all friends, all excited for a basketball game. But by morning they were gone. What followed was a discovery so bizarre, so heartbreaking, it still haunts investigators to this day. This is the story of the Yuba County Five, brought to you by Whispers and Shadows. On February 24th, 1978, 5 men left their homes in Yuba County, California, to attend a college basketball game in Chico, about 50 miles away. They were Gary Mathias, 25, Jack Madruga, 30, Bill Sterling, 29, Jackie Hewitt, 24, and Ted Ware, 32. The group had been friends for years. Most of the men had mild intellectual disabilities. Gary was the only one diagnosed with a mental disorder, schizophrenia, for which he was medicated and was reported to be doing very well. The men were bonded by routine, loyalty, and a shared love of sports. They had their own basketball team called the Gateway Gators. On February 25th, the men were due to play their first game in a week-long tournament that was sponsored by the Special Olympics. The men prepared the night before. Excited, some even laid out their uniforms, ready for the game that day. On the night of the 24th, they watched the Chico State basketball team win. Afterward, around 10 p.m., they stopped at a convenience store, bought snacks, and headed home. That was the last time anyone saw them alive. Some parents had waited up for their boys. When they didn't come home, the parents started to panic. By morning, all the parents would find the boys' rooms untouched since the day before, the beds not slept in. Police were called and initially made the parents wait. The men were young and hadn't been gone even 24 hours. By the evening, the men had still not returned, and an investigation was started. Searchers traveled the route the men took to Chico and home. They found no evidence of them. No one had any idea where the men could be. Then a few days later, a Plumas National County Forest Ranger would report that Jack's car, a turquoise and white 1969 Mercury Montego, was found abandoned in a remote mountainous area near Orville, nearly 70 miles northeast of Chico. Their parents couldn't understand why they would drive up this long, winding road in the winter. They were not prepared for the cold weather. All the men had only light clothing on, and no extra clothing was taken. It didn't seem as though the plan for the night included the trip up the mountain. The car looked like it was stuck in the snow on this lonely logging road. But here's the thing. The car wasn't really stuck. Any one of the men, especially strong ones like Gary or Jack, and certainly all 5, could have pushed it free. There was no damage. It had plenty of gas. There was no mechanical failure. The car was unlocked. One of the windows was rolled down and the keys were gone. Jack's parents later said this was odd, as Jack always locked his car. Inside the car were wrappers from the snacks they bought, folded maps, and some personal belongings, but not one sign of the men. Efforts to search the area were hampered by a snowstorm that day. Search dogs picked up no scent. After a few days of looking, a search group and snowcats nearly became lost themselves. Further searching was called off due to the continuing bad weather, and weather would keep them from the area for weeks. The car was taken by police to the station. They would find the undercarriage of the vehicle in pristine condition. The men had traveled in the dark on a bumpy mountain road and had not even scratched the underside of the car. It appeared as though someone must have been very familiar with that road. But none of the men were. Jack's parents felt this could be explained by the fact that Jack loved his car and would have driven carefully on an unfamiliar road. Still, police found it odd. Unable to search due to bad weather, the investigation stalled. Finally, warmer temperatures came, and with the melting snow came horror. June 4th, a group of motorcyclists were riding on the trails in the park. They passed by a U.S. Forest Service trailer. They saw a broken window and stopped to check it out, and inside lay the badly decomposing body of Ted. He was wrapped in sheets. Investigators would find that Ted had been alive for 8 to 13 weeks after the group vanished. His beard had grown out and his body was emaciated. Oddly, his shoes were missing. He had food available, canned rations, but he hadn't eaten much. Why? Even stranger, the trailer had plenty of supplies, including heat, but the heat was off. A locker full of food was never opened. Ted had matches and paper, but never lit a fire. Oddly, nearby were Gary's shoes, but no Gary. An autopsy would confirm that Ted had lost about 100 of his 200 pounds. His feet were swollen and frostbitten. His cause of death was starvation and hypothermia. The nightmare didn't end there. In the forest within a 20-mile radius of the car, search teams found the bones of Jack and Bill. The bones were scattered around the area, which investigators believe was done by animals. They had apparently succumbed to hypothermia. Shortly after, Jackie's shoes and his spine were discovered just 2 miles from the trailer. His skull was found 100 yards away. Gary's body was nowhere to be found. His father said that while searching, he looked for other things like Gary's glasses. He couldn't believe a wild animal would have taken or eaten those, but no evidence was ever found. A local man did come forward claiming that he had been in his car near where the Montego was later found. He has a cabin near there and had planned a weekend ski trip. He was checking on the snowpack, but had gotten his vehicle stuck. After a time, he saw headlights come up behind him. He looked out and could see a group of people, including what looked like a woman holding a baby. He says he heard voices and could see flashlights. He called out, but the voices stopped and the lights went out. He told investigators he thought he saw a pickup truck, but couldn't be sure. Another notable report was from a woman who worked in a store near the town of Brownsville, about 30 miles from where the car was abandoned. In March, the woman who had seen reward flyers with the pictures of the men would report that 4 of the men had stopped at the store that night. They were in a red pickup truck. The store owner would confirm the story. This led investigators to believe there was a possibility of foul play. So let's see. The car could have been driven out. They walked 20 miles through deep snow. They had shelter, food, and supplies, but still perished. And to this day, Gary has never been found. What happened 47 years ago? Maybe Gary, who struggled with schizophrenia, had a delusional episode and led them into the woods. This theory didn't seem likely, as he'd been treated for years and was doing great with the medications he was on. And it was noted that he hadn't had any recent psychotic breaks. Maybe someone lured them up there, someone they trusted. There were whispers about strange men seen around one of the stores in the area, but no evidence ever surfaced. Some believe the men were frightened by something that made them leave the car, walk miles into the deadly cold, and behave irrationally. Or was it just simply the perfect storm of fear, confusion, and bad luck? The men could have just found themselves lost and afraid. They were faced with a dangerous survival situation that they were not mentally able to handle. So why was Gary never found? Well, he had some military training. Perhaps he felt he could find a way out and took off on his own to find help. The terrain in the area is dense and rugged, and it's a real possibility that he could have become lost or incapacitated before finding help, sadly perishing far from his friends. Well, whatever happened, the case remains unsolved. No one knows why 5 young men, so full of life, wandered into the forest that night, and only 4 were ever found. So what do you think? Was it tragedy, madness, or something much stranger? You decide. If you find this story as heartbreaking as we do, please consider subscribing for more mysterious disappearances and unexplained encounters. Drop your theory in the comments. What do you think happened to the Yuba Five? Thanks for watching. Stay curious and stay safe.